You can say America first as much as you want, but you win wars, you stay out of wars, and you get more prosperous by having friends and allies. The president can say, we are stronger and more respected around the world than we've ever been, and everybody I talk to in the world loves us. He's just simply wrong. We are damaging alliances that have kept us safe since the end of the Second World War. Just today, our dearest and oldest intelligence partners announced that they will no longer be sharing intelligence with us, at least on drug trafficking. Colombia just said the same thing. It's been reported that the Dutch are saying the same thing. Our NATO allies are preparing to form a much stronger and unilaterally controlled military. None of that is America first.
Well, and let's talk about what we've seen in the way of retirements, people who've been pressured out. To what extent are we seeing a remaking of that security services?
Well, I think we're right in the middle of it. So the first thing we saw, one, I think it was made very clear what the president's intent was. I mean, I can personally attest that I resigned on January 20th because I was not going to continue working in a domestically focused intelligence agency for a president who would run on a campaign that I want to use my security services to go after my enemies. So you're going to lose a lot of people that way. We then saw losing people who were reporting intelligence that did not fit with the narrative the president wanted. And that, by the way, touches on another common aspect of autocrats and dictators. They lie a lot. Their connection with reality is situational and self-interested. And the problem with having a really good intelligence service gives the leaders truth, whether they like it or not. That's really the role of the CIA, despite what you see in the movies. And that's the role of the State Department, to advise the president on what's happening in the world. Well, dictators generally don't like to hear news from that quarter that isn't in accord with their view of preferred reality. And so those people started to get fired. And now what we're seeing is loyalty tests, people being fired because they had once tweeted something that criticized Donald Trump. So we are refilling up the intelligence services, the State Department, with people whose primary characteristic is personal loyalty to Donald Trump and the people around him. And that is not the way it was throughout the community.
Steve, supporters of the president, their argument might well be that there's been a lack of accountability of administrative staff, and what used to be called non-pejoratively the deep state, now that's taken on with critics sort of conspiratorial tinge to it. But the notion of the deep state, as predates that. This idea that you've kind of got this other functioning alongside the elected government, this other government that goes on, regardless of the administration, that really isn't directly responsive to the American people. So supporters of the president would argue, well, yeah, he may be absorbed with loyalty in his own vanities here, but this is an important thing to do. You've got this unaccountable deep state with people who are generally on the liberal side. They sort of keep the same policies, things intact, regardless of who the president is, and that this needs to be shaken up. They need to be held accountable by someone who's elected, like a president. So what's your response to that worldview?
Well, I mean, there are a couple there. I mean, first of all, just saying you need to be held accountable requires a second sentence, which is you need to be held accountable for fill in the blank. In other words, I think you did wrong and you need to be held accountable for it. If you're just yelling, you need to be held accountable, and therefore I am going to inflict pain on you and require loyalty, you're losing, you've not offered up the justification for accountability. The second problem is they may think there's no accountability, but there certainly is. You are responsible for carrying out your duties in a heavily regulated, heavily overseen environment. So, and that's not just the national security community, but let me use the CIA as an example. when I worked at the CIA, the people looking over my shoulder to hold me accountable were my immediate bosses, of course, going all the way up to the director who was appointed by the president, but also an inspector general, and also a general counsel, and also a Senate Intelligence Committee and a House Intelligence Committee. Republicans and Democrats on both of them structured so both parties get to do oversight and hold people accountable. And I can tell you, they do. So the idea that you just sort of trumpet the idea of, oh, we're here to clean up the swamp and the deep state. I mean, they're great bumper stickers, but they just simply are not true. By the way, we are called the steady state as a slight attempt at humor from a group of people who aren't always the funniest people in the room. It's sort of a pun on it. But if you ask the people who are saying that, what is it that you want those people held? What they do wrong? What you will hear is Benghazi, or you will hear what we're now calling Arctic frost, which is entirely debunked. That's the so-called Russia hoax. The bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee, led by Marco Rubio, wrote an exhaustive report on Russian interference in the election and came up with that nobody had done anything wrong. And in fact, there was Russian interference in the election. Whether there was conspiracy and complicity, we don't know. But I test that. And I did one more thing when people sort of say, well, they're all liberal. I worked a bunch of years at the CIA. I don't know if you walk the halls and you got people to talk about their politics, which you probably wouldn't be able to do, whether you would find them to be particularly liberal.
Well, let's take the State Department though, and I know you didn't work there, but you have a membership that's significantly, State Department people, and the case is that the State Department is really full of people who are generally internationalists. They're not America First people. So you've got a president who ran on an America First platform and sort of, we're not going to be internationalists anymore, and this is a new day. So,
hi, I'm Pat Morrison, one of the hosts of America at a Crossroads. If you like this video, don't just watch. Head over to our website where you can subscribe for early access to new programs, see our upcoming schedules, and connect directly with our guests in our weekly live streams. Thank you for watching.
We have a president who was elected on that platform. You've got a State Department that arguably is dominant of people who are internationalists the way America's done things in the past. So what's wrong? Suppose the president would say with turning 180 degrees from what the State Department has been focused on historically.
Well, first of all, I think the State Department people that I've worked with, and again, I don't really know their politics, would say having a strong diplomatic corps coupled with a strong military, coupled with strong economic intersection, and having alliances is how you get to America First. Again, it's a bumper sticker. You can say America First as much as you want, but you win wars, you stay out of wars, and you get more prosperous by having friends and allies. So you can say, oh, we don't like internationalists, but I'm sorry, we live on a globe with multiple countries. Now, unless you want to, forage for berries and grains and, try to hunt with a bow and arrow, in a modern world, you don't have a choice. We live on a single place with a lot of countries. So it is a mistake to just say, oh, I want a State Department that is not internationalist, which, by the way, is why you have a State Department. And the destruction of the State Department, destruction, by the way, which is accomplished through ignoring that whole structure, the laws, the appropriations, the role of Congress. By destroying the State Department, you are destroying America's power. Again, the president can say, we are stronger and more respected around the world than we've ever been, and everybody I talk to in the world loves us. He's just simply wrong. We are damaging alliances that have kept us safe since the end of the Second World War. We are damaging trade partners that have kept us incredibly prosperous. Almost everything in my house right now, or most of it, comes from or has parts from all around the world. That's why I'm allowed to have all this stuff and I can pay for it. We're destroying that. We're destroying the environment. We're destroying the trust other nations have with us. Just today, our dearest and oldest intelligence partners announced that they will no longer be sharing intelligence with us, at least on drug trafficking. Colombia just said the same thing. It's been reported that the Dutch are saying the same thing. Our NATO allies are preparing to form a much stronger and unilaterally controlled military. None of that is America first.
Just a reminder, next week, I'll be back talking with Slate senior writer Mark Joseph Stern about the federal courts and the contentious political environment in which they're being asked to decide the limits of executive, congressional, and judicial authority. I know it's going to be a very intense conversation, a lot to talk about. Almost certainly we'll have something right out of the headlines to talk about with Mark. That's next Wednesday, our usual time, 5 o'clock Pacific. We look forward to seeing you then. Until then, have a great coming days.